All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Triaxle podcast. I'm here today with Joe Teal of CDE, and today we are talking about dirty dirt, clean dirt, the problems that come along with it. You know, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, in different parts of the country deal with contaminated soils, and, you know, for many years they were just ignored or, you know, hauled away and dumped on a different site. But Joe's company actually cleans these soils and turns them into usable aggregates, usable sand and materials. And today we're here to talk about dirty dirt. So Joe, appreciate you coming on, man. You made a decent drive to get out here, so glad to have you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Glad to be a part of the Triaxle podcast, something that I've seen a couple of times now on LinkedIn, all the social media stuff. So happy I can add some comment to it and see where this goes. You know, I'm excited about excited about CDE and what we're doing for future generations, but also seeing you guys. You know, I've been watching you guys slowly progress in the space that you guys are in. So hopefully, you know, we can work together. You know, a lot of your guys that are, you know, working with Triaxle and trying to connect the dots between contractors and places. You know, maybe one day there's a guy with a CDE plant working with Triaxle. So who knows?
You never know, man. The sky's the limit, and you just never know where life's going to take you. So.
I'm confident that somewhere down the line in the very near future, something like that's going to happen.
I look forward to seeing that happen, man.
Can't wait.
So give me a little bit of your history. How did you end up at CDE?
It's a long, but I can make it short. Born and raised in New Jersey. Family history and background is 100% construction. Grandfather started out with his brother right after the Korean War, and they bought some land, started digging dirt and providing landfill cover for the Arthur Kill in Staten Island. So a bunch of Jersey guys were able to get a New York contract for landfill cover. So all the other ancillary stories from that go into how New Jersey guys work in the state of New York, especially Staten Island. From there, my uncle really, you know, as my grandfather's heavy civil construction company kind of dwindled down. We had a bunch of commercial real estate, and my uncle had a demolition and remediation company, and I got heavily involved with him. We were doing demo sites, large environmental remediation, and I was just very comfortable with figuring out where to dump dirt. you know, worst case landfill, but you always try to find a home. It becomes a brownfield site. Then you start receiving contaminated soil. And in New Jersey, we have LSRPs. They're a licensed environmental engineer acting on the state's DEP presence for there. And you start to get to know them and understand their struggles. And they're, you know, an LSRP in New Jersey, if they do something wrong, the fines are out of control.
More than the job was worth.
Like we're talking $10,000 a day.
Okay.
If they don't accurately provide, you know, they're very protected. The state DEP puts a lot of onus on them, and they're tough. They are, which is great. You know, we're here to make the future better, not worse.
Sure.
And so I was with my uncle, and I kind of outgrew the family business. I started working for a company called Hoffman Equipment, and I was selling yellow iron, excavators, bulldozers. Volvo was their main brand, also with Aztec, so crushers and screeners. And with my uncle's company, the demolition side, we bought and sold crushers and screeners, so I was familiar with that, and I was familiar with RCA and how to work with recycled aggregates. And, you know, it can be good. It can be good just as good as virgin material. And so I took a real good run with focusing on crushing and screening and attacking the guys that I knew with the environmental world. And then that thing called COVID happened. And beautiful thing about COVID, it was the safest time for a contractor to work. I mean, there was on the Garden State Parkway and the Turnpike, there were 3-4 year projects that they were finishing in months because there's no one on the road.
Right.
So they didn't have to do a single lane closure at night. They just closed the road and just did everything.
Yeah, you know, of all the pros and cons to that whole thing, I never put a lot of thought into the road work and actually the speed that they could move along at because they had free reign. So yeah, that's interesting.
There's an intersection on the Parkway, and anyone in New Jersey that's listening, they'll know it's the Driscoll Bridge area, where there's essentially, I don't know the exact number of lanes, but it's like 18 or 24 lanes, north and southbound, going over the waterway, and a large contracting company based right out of there. They did it in one night. I think it was they had to do the northbound side, and it was a 5-year project, and they did it in, I think, 18 weeks, 24 weeks.
Wow.
Like a ridiculous number, because they would have to, can you imagine having to repave I think it was like a 3-mile section where you had 24 lanes coming into like 6, and all that jockeying. They just closed it down.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, there were some pros to COVID for sure.
Yeah. So middle of COVID, I'm wheeling and dealing. I'm doing really good. Guys are buying and selling excavators. Like, then we had the inventory issue. So it was really, the need was there, the demand was there, and they weren't manufacturing any new ones. So like it was find an excavator that ran and get it on site.
Yeah.
I value what LinkedIn can do for everybody in the business world. I'm kind of, other social medias, I'm kind of non-existent, but LinkedIn, I really see the value of connecting people for business purposes. And a recruiter from the UK reached out to me. I'll never forget. I got a message from a +44 number. And I was like, this is definitely scam.
This is some bullshit here.
Definitely scam. So nope. And then I got a message on LinkedIn, hey, Joe, this is Anthony. I'm the guy trying to call you with a +44 number.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, okay. Man, he's really trying to track me down.
Yeah.
So I listened. And I listened, and he said, and then finally when I got to the stage, I'm not sure if you've ever had, it was my only time, but being recruited by a large firm, they don't tell you who you're getting recruited by until like later stages in like the whole recruitment process. So once I found out it was CDE, I did my research, and I said, wow. I said that, I knew of them because of our first and largest on the East Coast contaminated soil processing is in Farmingdale, Long Island. And I knew of them. I just knew it was big and blue, and I said, okay, like there's something here. And then from my experience with working with my uncle and the challenges that are present in remediating a site successfully, environmentally and financially. So, some guys, you buy a piece of property, you do a phase 1, you do a phase 2, and they're still taking a risk on what's underneath the ground. I don't know. I just did 10 test holes, test pits, and some guy says it's safe, but there could have been a grease pit 5 yards on the other side of that. He didn't test it.
Sure.
And now there's petroleum everywhere.
Yep.
And you're on the hook because you bought it.
Yes. Yep.
So those are things that I go through my head, and then fast forwarding with my other family background of just understanding virgin material and natural reserves, the head started spinning, and I was like, I should really consider leaving a great opportunity and great career choice of business development or sales, selling yellow iron, where every day I was doing a deal, to going with CDEs, selling the dream, and I joined. I jumped ship. I middle of COVID, I changed not careers, but just completely different scope.
Sure.
I'm selling these massive plants now that are doing 250 tons an hour of handling contaminated soil, and making a clean aggregate and sand to be used back in concrete and asphalt, which is something that, and it's not, and it's not here to replace virgin material. I think that may be some type of the misconception or something that I always have to overcome. I'm not here. There's a harmony between you. If you have a virgin site, a blue rock site, you're crushing, you're screening, you're selling beautiful blue stone, and it meets the E rating for PennDOT, and it's all that stuff. That's needed. But what's not needed is for that virgin material to be put on a curb or on a sidewalk or a decorative piece, something for your patio. That's waste, and that's wasteful to me. There's very, very great, strong aggregate and sand that can be regenerated from an excavation waste.
Sure.
That would also, the home of that excavation waste, most of the time, the safest is a landfill. you know, because some people don't want to have that liability. They don't want to dump on their friend's backyard, and 10 years later, someone does a phase 2 and it was contaminated.
Right.
You know, and eliminate the liability, go to a landfill.
Sure.
But yeah, so CDE, I joined them, was this 24? I joined them in 21, January 21, and it's been a roller coaster ride ever since.
Liking it so far?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, something new every day.
Yeah.
The challenges are great. I get to work with some really, really smart people on the inside. You know, CDE is, our presence might be, you know, we're global. You know, we're north of 2,000 plants across the globe, anywhere between 500 and 600 employees, give or take, depending on demand and year. We're doing some remarkable things in the Middle East, removing, if you remember in the Iraqi war, where Saddam Hussein burnt the ground, burnt all the oil reserves.
I do.
So we're in there with the we've actually developed. It's our only operation where we have a solvent. We have a additive. Typically, it's just water and screening. We don't do anything else. We just wash, and we developed a process that removes that oil from the sand. And now it's clean. It's not burnt oil. I mean, like when you touched it, I haven't touched it, but I've seen internal videos of it, where it's like a cake crust. You know, you got to snap like a bark.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to snap it, and we're scrubbing it. We use attritions. We use everything we possibly could imagine, throw at it, and that's. I mean, I was able to see the growth of that when I joined. That contract hadn't been delivered yet, and we did a pilot plant, and that's growing.
And that's something I would imagine. I mean, I remember seeing that when I was a kid when he was doing that. I mean, there had to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil, if not millions. I don't even know what kind of numbers we're talking about here.
I couldn't even put a number to it.
Yeah, but you're taking a massive area and cleaning that sand, and it's being put back down or spread back out, and it's perfectly fine.
It's going to be. I think it's in stages. There's multiple contracts. You know, they break it off into, I don't know, say 10-acre sections or 100-acre sections. I really don't know that piece.
Sure.
But I know part of it is going to be reclaimed for kids' recreation.
Wow.
So it's a cool, that's just one highlight.
Yep.
Like just to see that. And then, in the U.S., our presence and our need for recycling and regenerating aggregate and sand in certain areas. It doesn't really, this business model doesn't work everywhere. But when you have certain parameters, regulation, trucking, I mean, I maybe this is, I assume this, but trucking is an animal to deal with no matter where you are in the country. I assume that. I don't really know. You just came back from Alaska, so you might be able to tell me a different story.
Yeah, well, I mean, everywhere logistics come down to the most cost-effective and most efficient way to do it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell, basically. So yeah, I mean, everywhere trucking's a consideration. You go out to Alaska or some places in the Midwest, you're dealing, where you may have projects where you have really long hauls, and you're going for 50 miles, 100 miles, where, I imagine you get over into, New Jersey and the New York area, you might be only going 10 miles, but it takes you 2 hours round trip to do that based on the traffic over there.
It is 58 miles door to door from my house in Red Bank, New Jersey, to Farmingdale, Long Island, which is where Basilico's facility is.
Okay.
It has yet to take me under 3 hours to get there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Bell Parkway is a wonderful animal for traffic.
You have to have CDA get you a helicopter or something, man.
So it's funny you say that. So I do, just like you, I do a fair bit of travel, and I'm in and out of Newark quite often. Probably 3 or 4 times a month I'm on a plane.
Okay.
Blade, for $199, you can go from Newark Airport to JFK.
Oh wow!
For $200, you can jump on in a helicopter and jump over. So I have thought about it. I've been in those situations. I was like, for $200, I can get from Newark to JFK, and I can make that flight. Yeah. Well worth it.
Yeah, you'll do it someday when you're running late. Let me know when it happens.
I haven't. It'll definitely be posted somewhere.
Yeah.
I haven't had to do that yet. But traffic and logistics. I guess where my head goes to for trucking logistics problems is always the congestion. But also just the number of drivers on the street. It's just harder and harder to find good operators.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then talking about the trucking here too. So here locally, we have a project here locally that is going to be looking to get remediated. And the talk or the word is preliminarily that some of that material, like the closest place, depending on the levels of it, it may have to go to Michigan. I guess there's a special landfill out there that will take some of this material. So,
there are some contaminants that they don't have an accurate solution for it. So somebody will say, "Well, I'll just bring it here," and then they'll get permitted for it, and then they'll take responsibility for it.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure how versed you are in these contaminated conversations. I have become one.
Yeah.
But PFAS is, that's the forever chemical. That's the chemical that DuPont made. That there was the big documentary on Netflix where the guy found out that DuPont made this PFAS because they were killing all of his cows. I guess there was a factory. It's a documentary on Netflix. I don't remember the name.
It's ringing a bell. Yeah, I feel like I've heard of this. I don't think I've seen it though.
Now that we talk about it,
I'll watch it now.
Everyone's listening.
Yeah.
It's going to pop up on Netflix right away.
Probably. Yeah.
So DuPont made this chemical, but it's in everything. It's in your cookware. It's in Teflon for non-stick. It's sticky, and at the same time, it slides. So it adheres to things, but even that chemical, and it's scary because it's I don't know how to say it. It's the levels for what's considered contaminated is up and down across the country. The federal government is just putting numbers on it, on levels, and to adhere to those, it's going to be very costly.
Sure.
We actually did another project to highlight. We did we originally was a pilot, and then it was a full-blown, became a plant in Australia. Australian Air Force Base found PFAS all over. So we see success on the airports and the airfields because the fire retardant and the fire retardant material and all the extinguishers have a shelf life, and they have the PFAS in it. So what does the airport do when the stuff is sitting on the shelf because they don't have many fires? Well, they go use it for the training facility.
Yep.
So then the training is spread all across the field, and now there's PFAS everywhere. So in Australia, we built a plant to remove thousands of tons of PFAS from the earth through our washing process. So we get it out of the soil into the water, and then there's a whole host of really big companies that are dealing with PFAS in water. It's getting it from the soil to the water, where that's what we excel at.
So you guys can handle that, and then you secure it, put it in drums or whatever, and then other companies handle the rest.
No, actually, nothing is actually put in drums.
Oh no.
Well, I guess down the line things are put in drums, but once we get it into the water, then there's we call it exotic, or some might call it tertiary. It becomes a full water treatment plant.
Okay.
In a square, one side of it is the soil receiving facility and the scrubbing area. That's us. And then we get it into the water. And once it's in the water, then the water gets treated. There's a whole host of different things, but essentially you have a GAC, which is a granulated activated carbon. It's a big Brita filter. And then you have an ion resin exchange. And that's real intricate because you have to know, with a resin exchange, you have to know the exact ion or chemical that you're trying to pass over from the water to this. So you can't really play around in terms of like how many chemicals can you treat with a resin exchange. It has to be a specific parameter.
Very specific for
that. But through us and with some subcontractors, there's big, the Suez of the world, stuff like that. They're massive multinational companies. This is what they do.
Okay.
They go and they treat water, and they get it clean for to drink it. So we partner with them, and we have a very successful process to handle PFAS. And that's just one. I mean, it's a scary topic just because of all the unknowns, but we do have a safe solution, because the other solution of removing PFAS from dirt is incineration. And nobody really wants to be burning dirt, wasting natural gas, because then on the other side of that is you burn the dirt, then what are you left with? just dirt.
Yeah.
With us, at least you get it classified. We'll make some sand. We'll classify some aggregate. Now it's still PFAS sand and PFAS aggregate, but it'll be clean. We've had it's public knowledge. It's out there. Our Australian site did a very, very good job, very successful reduction rate to get it below the Australian levels, and the data that we have, it gets it below the levels that are on the U.S. standard right now. But it's an emerging. That's the word I was thinking of. It's an emerging contaminant. So DEPs, environmentalists, they know it's out there. They the state of Michigan. They know that it's everywhere. They just don't know how to handle it yet.
Sure.
So that's kind of like, if you don't test it, you don't know about it.
Right.
But now you got to test for it. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's in your deodorant. It could be in your toothpaste.
Great. It sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome, I guess.
Yeah. If you go down that rabbit hole of all the stuff that you don't want in the products in your house and you consume, it's a whole different podcast. But
oh yeah, a whole different podcast. Well, the one change that I did make after learning about PFAS and stuff is seltzer.
Okay.
Seltzer cans. For whatever reason, or just we don't drink soda in the house, but just I love seltzer. I like the fizz, like the bubbles.
Yeah.
I read that seltzer, was it LaCroix is like the highest level PFAS in all of it. And I just looked at the case I just got from Costco, and I was like, that has to go.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's in the can.
It's in the can.
Not in the seltzer.
Not in the seltzer. It's in the can.
Wow. Yeah.
It's slippery.
Yeah.
So.
That's crazy, man. If we only knew everything, we shouldn't. You'd just have to stay in a bubble all the time and not leave your house. You know.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to, my kids are outside all day long, getting the germs. You know, just go play, go get hurt, go figure it out.
Yeah,
that's the only way to do it.
That's great that you guys are coming up with some of these solutions, though. Like I was saying, like the Michigan thing. If they have to haul one Triaxle load or dump trailer load up to Michigan or 20, I mean, that's expensive per ton to move. You know? But it's also not a big enough problem to have you guys get involved and bring something down, because we're not talking enough volume for that. But as time goes on, I would think in the years go on, they're not making any more land. They're not making places to dump this stuff and get rid of it. I'm sure the overreach and the oversight on these dump sites and everything, it's only going to get tighter as time goes on. It's only going to get harder. So like maybe down the road, you guys will have something more portable or smaller. Maybe maybe you already do have something and I'm not correct. But instead of trucking from Pennsylvania to Michigan, you guys have technology. You bring that to this site and clean it on site and done and over. And
yeah,
everybody's happy.
With time, things get smaller. The technology grows. Those possibilities. Of course, I would love to be able to say, "Let me show up on your site. I'll pull up a full turnkey wash plant. We'll be able to scrub all the contaminants out of the earth. We'll get it into the water. We'll harvest the contaminants. So now it's not 1,000 tons. Now it's a couple pounds." And then you can deal with a couple pounds a lot easier than the thousands of tons.
Sure.
That will soon come. Ultimately, with our process, and anyway, scale is the easiest way to make your money back. It is a very capital intensive business proposal. It's not cheap by any means, but part of that scale is also water. You need a large amount of water to do any of this process. So the mobility of this process is purely on the size of what's needed for the water. The amount of water to run even say 30, 40 tons an hour, which is a small number for us, is the amount of water is crazy. Even like 100 ton an hour plant, you're talking thousands of gallons of water running around circulating constantly
per hour.
Per minute.
Per minute.
Yeah, gallons per minute.
Okay. Wow.
It's so that if that technology, if we're able to quickly mobilize, storage tanks, stuff like that,
sure,
then we can start talking true mobility. But right now, our plants are geared to be semi-permanent or semi-mobile. They're on skids. We designed a plant pretty locally to be able to be installed or uninstalled in less than a month. It's in Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
Great company, and they do a great job, and they built that without really understanding the market and understanding the permitting process. They just knew that it was needed, so they built it, got the permit in lieu of the plant being built, and have been successful ever since. Carrying it over, just doing a great job of it.
Awesome.
So that there is a little bit of mobility on that, but in hindsight, the other piece that we didn't discuss, the logistics side of these dump sites and virgin material, they're not making more land. The other piece is airspace for landfills. That's a huge thing for us. We have landfill diversion, we call it. We have operations across the world that they're putting a plant next to a closed landfill, mining the landfill for the sand and aggregate, and reducing the airspace, the AUF, so that they can bring back more garbage.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is something. And then there's also, I know stories of guys that used to run landfills or where it's if somebody's getting paid a couple extra bucks, where you see daily cover should be a foot.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden you see a shelf of like 13 feet. It's like, all right, who got paid on that one? But if you that's not every day. Yeah. That's, so call it once a month, 13 feet, but 13 feet every couple of times a year times 20 years. Now talk about airspace, it adds up quick. And that's also, say, 12 feet over a couple acres.
Sure.
That's a lot of material.
Yeah.
And it's usually good material. So the landfill diversion piece also adds to the logistics of getting rid of contaminated soil. I mean, landfills have to think about it. What am I make more money on? Am I making more money on garbage? That's coming in every single actual residential garbage, your egg cartons and stuff like that, or dirty dirt. I don't know. To me, dirt has more than one purpose. Sure. So you could, no problem, bring the dirt in, but it's it's ever changing game. Our systems can handle not just PFAS. That's a contaminant that's like pretty, it's new and unknown, but we all know about hydrocarbons and petrocarbons and VOCs and SVOCs, stuff, everyday stuff. You dump your antifreeze down the drain. Where does it go? It goes into the water, and then where's that water go? Goes in the stream. And now that stream, the banks, the stream is all contaminated, and somebody's going to have to pay to fix that. So, our in the U.S., we're still kind of new. Still, people know about us. We don't have a lot. We don't have a ton of plants. We have 3 in Long Island. We have 1 in Maryland, 1 in New Jersey, and that's just in the Northeast for recycling. We have 1 being commissioned in California. And we have an operation in Calgary that's doing 100% contaminated. Those are the true dedicated recycling systems that we have present right now. In the next 12 months, we should almost add a third to that. As long as commissioning happens properly and things get, permits happen properly, but it's a growing need, not everywhere. There's South Carolina, certain areas of the country, there's plenty of land and plenty of virgin material. But when you get into areas like here, like Poconos or, right on Route 80, how many millions of tons of material that's being excavated in the New York City, that area, traveling across New Jersey and coming right across here, like literally right across this, right Route 80.
Right over the bridge.
Right over the bridge.
Yeah.
Millions of tons.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Every year. This isn't like a COVID time where everything happened and boom, and then it closes down.
Yeah.
On an annual basis.
So that much is being exported from that area because you guys don't have places to dump.
Well, yeah, or just we don't. Forget about CDE, just in general.
I mean, just New Jersey in general. Yeah.
Well, so Pennsylvania regulations, this is people playing with regulations. Pennsylvania regulations and New Jersey regulations are starkly different. Mm-hmm. And then just also the cost. The cost of building a landfill or building a dump site in Pennsylvania is a lot less than New Jersey.
Okay.
To buy the land and then to permit the land. I mean, there's 13 acres in Newark, New Jersey right now will trade for north of $6 or $7 million an acre.
An acre.
An acre.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a Newark.
But I believe it.
It's a Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that is a premium there.
So, you know, and then if you go further west into the, you know, the upper Saddle Rivers, you know, those nicer areas, nobody with a right mind is going to want to, you know, open up a landfill.
Sure.
So you have that. And then if you go on the other side of New York, you have beautiful, it's its own state in my eyes, but it's not, the Long Island.
Yeah.
Beautiful area. No more landfills. In the next, I don't know the exact number, but call it in less than 2 years. It could be less than a year. There's going to be no ability to dump dirt in Long Island.
You can't dump on Long Island?
Can't dump on Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah. So the business case is very strong in Long Island.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because then the barrier for Long Island is all these tolls for bridges. Because I mean, you have water. You can always put things in a barge and ship it, and that's a great access. But not everybody has access to bulkheads and that feast. But you know, $16, $18 an axle.
And are we talking? And we're just talking regular clean fill dirt, not even contaminated stuff here.
I need to dump.
Dirt.
I just dug a basement.
Yep.
I need to go find a home for these 200 tons of material.
So if you don't have like a contact in the business, like, so you're saying like no more landfills, no more like actual, you know, permitted sites to take these things to. Like, can you take a Triaxle load of dirt on Long Island and take it to your buddy's property and dump it, or are they like?
You're going to bring it to Pasilico,
okay,
in Farmingdale, Long Island,
okay,
or you're going to bring it to Our Recycling out in Yaphank,
okay,
or there's a third one coming online in Brookhaven. Other than that, there are other facilities that have clean fill permits. They're there, but these are newer. These are within the next, you know, call it a couple, maybe a decade old. You know, landfills have been around forever.
Sure.
And they're just eliminating them.
They're just gone.
No more cell walls.
Yep.
I say that now. This is just from what I've heard and what I've talked to and read a little bit. I guess, you know, when in a pinch, what do? Just add a cell wall, and now you extended that life another 6 months.
Right.
Or, you know, but you're just buying your time for the final result is we have no place to dump ever.
Sure.
So, but that's clean fill.
Yeah.
That's not dirty dirt.
And we're like here, I'm in Northeast Pennsylvania. You know, it's a hassle here if you can't find a dump site within like 15 minutes away, and they're typically free. Like, I know you get over into New Jersey, New York, it's a moneymaker for a lot of guys. But here, the way we kind of do fill over here, you know, not contaminated stuff is typically there's a site that needs it and somebody wants to get rid of it, and it's just a trade. Maybe you're paying for trucking or something. But you know, you get in some of these other sites, you got to pay to dump. You got to make sure you have that in your job cost.
Yeah, tipping fees we call them, or gate fees.
Yeah, tipping fees. Yep.
Yeah, and it's part of it. You know, and that's what makes our business case stronger.
Sure,
is when you know someone who bought our plant has the option to charge coming in, and then they're also going to sell the sand for retail rate, because you are going to target. You're going to go up against somebody with a natural quarry or sand mine.
Yeah.
And where our systems win is, again, no one's looking to eliminate the virgin sand mine. The reserves are just running out.
Well, sand is tough to get. Like, I talked to Rick Masters here locally. He's got a concrete business, ready mix and precast, and he said, you know, good sand is tough to come by, and it's not going to get any easier as time goes on. So I think, you know, your company is on the right track as the years go on, and it gets harder to permit new quarries to pull out stone, pull out sand, we're going to be looking at, crushing, screening, recycling a lot of these products going forward. And as time goes on, you're going to see less and less virgin product getting used. 'Cause it's like geographically, depending on the area, Long Island, New York, out in Midwest, that might not happen for, a couple hundred years. I don't know how long it'll take for that to happen, but certainly in some of these, more populated areas, there's going to be a lot more recycling and a lot more reusing just to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just the future. It's the future of business. I mean, ultimately, not to go down this rabbit hole, but we can. Sand is the second or third most stolen commodity in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's go down a second here and fill me in on how.
Well, it's the black market of sand is massive. It's in the trillions of dollars. And it's also in everything. In our cell phone, you have silica.
Okay, yeah.
In the cell phone making process, in plastics and everything, in steel making, you have silica, you have sand.
Yep.
So there's a sand need in almost every industry. Healthcare, food. You'd be surprised how much, not in our actual food, but in the food making process, they need sand.
Sure.
Those needs generate black markets, gray areas, regenerate. But we're here we're going to regenerate sand and aggregates meant for the asphalt and concrete businesses.
Yeah.
We know the specs. We know that we can meet them. We know that we can harvest it from. Some of the material. So repurpose aggregates in Maryland, Jopa, Maryland. Owner is an awesome guy. Miguel Lambert. He bought a recycling plant from us, the Con Expo of COVID, that March 2020.
Okay.
Seen our booth. COVID happened. I think it was less than 20 weeks later, he bought our plant.
Nice.
Without knowing a thing.
He just kind of...
He believed.
He saw the future. He predicted what was going to come and what was going to happen and the need for it.
And he put it in it's like 70 miles, 70 miles south of Philly. And it's 40 minutes north of Baltimore. So he's not in like a real urban area, but there is a ton of construction going on there. And the material that he's able to process, he has a site. It's a 75-acre site, and it was the airspace. It was a dumping site. It was a recycling facility, and it was also a sand mine. But ultimately, they dumped there for a generation or so, and he bought it with no airspace, so he couldn't bring any material in. So then he started a recycling facility, started reducing the airspace, being able to bring in whatever he could. And Maryland, that area where Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania are all within like 5 miles of each other, is heavily clay-bound material. When I say clay-bound, fine. So when you're looking at earth, fines is a problem. You want to wash your stone to get rid of the dust. That dust is fines. You want to scrub your sand to get rid of the clays and silts because that affects your spec for your sand. So then you're left with these fines. So fines for us is considered sub 200 on the sieve test. He's experiencing radical numbers. 50% of his inbound material is clays and silts.
Okay.
And he's expected to turn a profit. So 50% is clays and silts. The other 50% is somewhere between sand and aggregate. So he has to make a spec product, or as our plant has to make a spec product from something that it was designed to handle 15 to 18% fines.
Okay.
And it's still doing it. It's doing a great job.
He's still getting there.
But it just shows the engineering of CDE of, hey, we can sell a plant. We can sell a plant to a guy who has no processing knowledge whatsoever. He had some recycling knowledge, but he was not a washer. He was not a miner. He has a great trucking company, so he knows that. He knows the logistics side, knows how to sell the sand, sell that. But to look at a pile of dirt and say if this is good or not, he didn't have that. Now he does, but he didn't have that when he bought the plant.
Right.
And to make it work, it just goes to show what our plants can do. We have the engineering that we have back in headquarters in Northern Ireland. I'd put them up against anybody just to be able to figure out processes and layouts. In these urban areas that I'm looking to put a plant in, none of them are square. It's here's a postage stamp. we want to maximize this area. Oh, and by the way, you have to have a scale, you have to have traffic flow, you have to have stockpiles, you have to have all this stuff, and we got to figure it out, and we do. And it's just, I mean, I'm just a business developer. I have a team that does a lot of legwork for me.
What kind of footprint does your plant take up?
So it's all based on your throughput, your tonnage.
Yeah.
But we kind of in this area, based on business models and what makes the most sense economically, we're talking like 150 to 250 ton an hour plant. Just makes the most sense economically. Once you go past 250 tons an hour, now you're asking us to add more equipment, more expensive equipment. So then the business case doesn't stack up.
Sure.
But I'd say at that 250 ton an hour plant, the smallest that I would really like to see is like 5 acres, 5.5 acres.
Okay.
The ideal size is like 7.
And that's for the plant area only, or that's your stockpile? And
that's stockpile.
So that's your whole operation.
That's the whole operation.
Gotcha.
Our physical plant footprint, less like 3/4 of an acre.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And that's water treatment. That's us processing. That's a little bit of stockpile, but not like the full. You have your inbound stockpile. You have your side stockpile. You have your unusables. There's a lot of scalping. In these, you're bringing in waste. So there's going to be garbage in it.
Yep.
You're going to have your organic garbage. You're going to have your overs and stuff, and your woods and that stuff that's done on their stockpile as well. So
yep.
That's what we do.
So how does it work? How does your system actually take an excavator bucket of contaminated dirt and it comes out the other side clean?
Without giving away too much information.
I know you got the trade secrets and all that stuff. Give me like the general overview.
So we scrub. So contaminated soil, just contaminants in general, are either going to be absorbed, soluble, or non-soluble. So we like it when it's soluble. Your hydrocarbons just get absorbed. If the water hits it, it gets absorbed, essentially.
Okay.
But what we do is it comes into our system. We mechanically scrub the clays and silts off the rock or off the aggregate. Those clays and silts stay with the water. That's what becomes like the sludge or the slurry. And then so we separate the good sand, the good aggregate from that dirty water that goes into the classifying area, and you get your sand and your aggregate for resale. And then you're left with this water. And the water will take the clays and silts into a clarifier, a thickener. We thicken that into a sludge, and then from the sludge we use a filter press, or we use a centrifuge, but best bet is for a filter press. And we could press it, and then the contaminants are going to get harvested in that cake. And then if it's a soluble situation where it's in the water, and you're dealing with pretty nasty stuff on a regular basis, then you would add a tertiary system, a GAC or something we don't need the water to be potable. By no means. We just need to be mechanically clean enough to continually to wash.
Yep.
So, so we scrub it. So we use our AgMax or Rotamax, which is a log washer. So that's going to scrub your aggregate, your bigger fraction. And then the sand side, we have attrition cells, and we use our hydrocyclones, and that's going to scrub and cut out the 200s. It's a big wash machine.
Yeah.
It really is. I see plants all the time, talk about it all the time. It really, fundamentally, it's a pretty basic thing that we've been able to engineer into something that's, creating a better world. I look at it. I mean, I live in New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey. Everything is contaminated. My basement right now, I just added a piece to my house, and I'm sure I didn't test it. I promise you I didn't test it, but I'm sure it's contaminated.
Yeah.
Like everything is contaminated in New Jersey.
Dirty Jersey.
Dirty Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, in reality, it's a historical thing. You follow the Industrial Revolution, you'll follow the contaminants. Like Florida, boom state, minimal contamination. They never experienced Industrial Revolution.
Right.
They never had any factories, with 8-year-old kids working everywhere.
Sure. Steel mills and all
None of
that
that
stuff that we had up here. Yeah.
The coal is not the contaminant factor. It's all the industry that the coal, came with.
Yeah.
The steel and stuff like that. I mean, there's the amount of contamination in that Rust Belt area. But the Rust Belt doesn't have a big population anymore. So you can, you may have a hot spot here. So that land just stays there. You don't touch it. You just go to the next spot and that's clean,
And we were talking before the show, like, people just didn't know. Like, you just didn't know. Like, during the Industrial Revolution, we have this drum of liquid. Let's just dump it over the bank, or let's just dump it, outside. People were they were naive. They were just ignorant. They just didn't know. And now, we're dealing with it, 100 years later, as, people found out, hey, this is actually bad. This should not have ever been put here.
And then you get those companies that continued the Industrial Revolution and assumed that we didn't know, and they continue to dump. What was that? What was that big?
It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
Well, what was it? Not to get political, but that JFK Jr. was a big environmental scientist, and he's the one. So I went to Marist. In Poughkeepsie, New York.
Okay.
So our campus is right on the Hudson. It was something to do. You did a little day drinking on a Saturday, and you jumped in the Hudson. But I didn't know that south of Poughkeepsie, that's where you get into, that's New York City water. It's dirty water. You're going to see a fish with a third eye or something like that. But north of Poughkeepsie was at one point really, really dirty. And JFK Jr., he was the lead environmental legal team for cleaning up the Hudson River.
Okay.
It was like a big thing. Like, I think there's a documentary on it. But thanks to him, I was able to swim in the Hudson and not lose my teeth or anything.
I'm looking at him right now. He does not have a third eye. So.
Sometimes I think I should, but with my family business, we developed our own site. It was our own site in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And my grandfather had a lot of connections. We had a recycling facility, Red Hook Recycling in Red Hook, New York. And that was a big shredder and did a lot of great things with recycling metals and cars and stuff. But with that came, the screenings. So screenings was just incinerated. It was the byproduct of incineration. And he just dumped it. He said, oh, yeah, just take a load. If you're going to bring a load of steel there, bring a load back and just dump it here.
Yeah.
It is PCBs. I mean, it is. I was playing around with it, as a 10-year-old, like not knowing what it is.
Sure.
And then we developed that site, and it came back very contaminated.
Hot.
So I got a chance to play. I got to play with it as a kid, and then I made some money, remediating it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But those are the kind of deals that happen. Like, who knew? It was just, hey, I'm going to get paid to bring a load of screenings back, and it looks like mulch. It's already been incinerated, so how bad could it be?
Sure.
I'm just going to fill my yard in, put some grass on top of it.
Wow.
You never know.
Yeah, no, you didn't know.
But I think now our success is also going to be predicated on regulation. So back to the concrete and asphalt and stuff. There's another side of this that I like to talk about with EPDs. Are you familiar with EPDs?
No.
So EPDs is Environmental Product Declaration. So it's you're going to win bids. Your buddy Rick Masters is going to win federal contracted work based on his EPD score.
Okay.
Not by his price. So it's not everywhere yet, but it's going to be very similar. You're familiar with Buy America?
Yes.
So similar to Buy America, you got to do all your best. If not, you got to do good faith to source it and that stuff. But it's going to follow those kind of clauses where I got Masters has a concrete plant. We have a concrete plant, and we're getting our sand and aggregate from a CDE plant that's on our site. And Masters is getting his sand and aggregate from 50 miles away, or from from South Jersey, where the beautiful round sand is. And because the EPD score calculates how green our concrete mix is, it includes 3 phases. Phase 1 is extraction. So we don't have any extraction. A CDE, our material comes right to us.
Sure.
So phase 1, that on an EPD score for our plant, phase 1 is taken out. Phase 2 is trucking, logistics and trucking. Well, we don't have any of that. Half of that we're gone. Masters has all of that.
Yeah.
Because he has to account for taking it from the extraction site from the South Jersey, done right in South Jersey. That's 110 miles from there to here. he has to account for that.
Yep.
For that one triaxle truck carrying 20 tons.
Sure.
We don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I feel like he had met in conversation months ago. I feel like he had mentioned something like that. Like mentioned the EPDs process. Yeah,
it's coming. Everyone has to come to grips with it. It has to, like the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is issuing contracts with those clauses in there right now, but it's not nationwide yet.
Right.
It's coming.
New York and New Jersey are definitely, farther ahead on these processes than here. Like even in Pennsylvania, like in New Jersey, you have to track fill, whether it's clean or dirty. If it's known to be clean, that still has to be documented from A to B.
Dirty dirt law.
The dirty dirt law.
That's what it's called, the dirty dirt law.
And here, no, you don't have to do any of that. You just free reign. Just you dig a basement. You want to take some dirt into your buddy's farm and dump it. Just go dump it. There's no documentation. It's coming. It's coming, and Triaxle, like we're aware that it's coming, and we have our eyes on that. But for now, no, it's just free reign. So just one state over, it's a whole different world.
And that's why I was saying before, you have millions of tons of material come from New York and just traveling straight across New Jersey and ending up in Pennsylvania.
And that's why.
And it economically, they make it make sense. I mean, that's partly why construction is so expensive.
Sure.
But they they have to, because otherwise, they could potentially find a home in the middle of New Jersey, but they would be paying $30, $40 extra a ton. It's worth it to pay a guy another $10 a mile to go and dump somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Especially because think of the corridors. We have Route 80, great east-west, and you have 78, great east-west.
Now I'm understanding why there's constant triaxle traffic on those roads. I never realized they were bringing it over. Just never even thought about it.
It's right, because in your eyes, like, well, where's all the? There's not that much construction going on.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're just quarries around here. They're construction projects going on. I didn't even think that's where they're coming from.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you get this way, when you get this far west, it's palatable. But when you get to the corridors where the Turnpike and 78 and that Newark, Jersey City, New York City area, and a triaxle is flipped over at least once a week and shuts down the Turnpike, that's when you really start to see it. You're like, man, this place is congested and there's so much activity going on.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to go further west. Like,
get
out of it.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I need my space. I need my breathing room. Yeah.
Some people love it. It's crazy. I couldn't do it.
No.
I mean, I'm in Red Bank. It's not congested, but it's not like North Jersey is scary.
Yeah, I live on 7 acres, and my neighbors, I can see them, but they're not real close, and that's not even. I could use more room to spread out.
When you want to go see your neighbors, you got to really think about if you need that milk, because that's a 10-minute drive.
Yeah,
7 miles.
7 acres. Yeah.
Oh, 7 acres.
Yeah, but neighbors don't even talk anymore, right? They don't even borrow milk anymore. It's just you got to text them, say, hey.
You gotta put a post on social media. Yeah. Everyone have free milk, and then next thing you know, your best friend is coming over.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and CDEs, it's been really great. The road it's been cool so far, and I think in the next 12 months, because we met at Dirt World.
Yep.
And I'm a big proponent of obviously what Aaron's doing with Dirt World, but I'm also with the NSSGA.
Okay.
So I think there's some correlation with BuildWid and NSSGA.
National Sand and Gravel Association.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We're a certain level of sponsor with them. I go to all the events. They've been awesome. Everybody I meet from them is great, and they understand what we're trying to achieve.
Sure.
Because ultimately, I don't just sell this recycling plant. I do want to work with the natural guys as well, because we were born into CDE was born by making sand from quarries and sand mines.
Okay.
Well, we understood, that's a market that's going to continue, but we got to go in a different way, because really in the UK, there is no land available. The reserves are minimal, so they have massive incentives to use recycled concrete, use recycled sand, use recycled aggregate. And it's actually economically, they make it beneficial to, I think more than 2/3 of construction is within the UK uses recycled aggregate sand.
Wow. That's pretty good.
That's
you have to. They have to. They don't really have a choice.
And then they put massive levies on dumping. To bring something to landfill, you have to bring it to a landfill. Like you have to exhaust all other avenues to get rid of this material before you bring it to a landfill.
Okay. You have to prove that it's the only option. It's the only resort.
They make it where dumping it at a CDE facility is $10 a ton. Dumping it at a landfill is like $200 a ton.
Okay.
So it's a no-brainer then.
Sure.
So then now this CDE facility has all this sand and aggregate, and that same construction company is going to take it back and regenerate it. Because it does. We have operations using 100% recycled aggregate or regenerated sand and aggregate for concrete, and they're making 5,000 psi 7-day breaks. Like they have the mix designs that they can make the strength. So now this is also, I'm a big proponent that there's a harmony between virgin and regenerated aggregate and sand. I'm really okay with an engineer demanding virgin material for a skyscraper or for a bridge deck or a bridge girder or a tunnel or something where that stuff is, that the strength of that concrete is absolutely necessary. I don't think we need 5,000 psi virgin aggregate in a curb or a sidewalk.
No.
For my daughters to ride their scooter on. Hopefully the virgin material goes to the stuff that it's actually needed to.
Sure. Yeah. Prioritize where it should be going, and then use the cleaned material where it's not as necessary to have that strength.
And then for the asphalt side, I mean, I'm very familiar with New Jersey. Everything's these micro mill and fills. So we're talking less than an inch milling and filling. Just use whatever you can to make the asphalt, because next year you're just going to rip it up again anyway.
Is that roads private?
Well, that's the micro mill, the micro fills they call them. It's everywhere. It's municipalities, it's highways. It's a bad winter came, so all the salting happened.
Okay,
and it's just a way to mitigate long-term pothole issues.
Gotcha.
But that's not everywhere.
No, I'm used to seeing around here, like they'll actually, I don't know the specs, they'll go down a couple inches and then do like a full overlay.
They should, yeah.
You don't see a lot of like micro
mill and fill, yeah.
Yeah, at least I'm not aware. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but
it's more prevalent, which is also more prevalent. I mean, our systems don't have the ability to really benefit recycle, millings, wrap, but that's, I don't know, at least where I go everywhere in New Jersey, you just see massive piles of millings.
Yep.
Mountains. You might as well start making ski hills out of them or something, because they're everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's another recycling avenue that I think we should probably, I know that there's pressure. There is federal pressure, there's state pressure, but only, I think it was last year, New Jersey finally got to a point where they raised the level of a mixed design, accepting a higher percentage of millings back into a new asphalt mix.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as good. Like historically, like that's just. I think you would rather virgin asphalt in certain applications versus recycled. And I'm not an engineer on this stuff, and somebody can call me out and tell me that I'm wrong, but. But here in Pennsylvania, they do. I think they're required. If they're doing a state project, they are required to take a certain portion of those millions back to the plant for recycling and putting back in.
Yep. Yeah. There's also percentages of acceptance on base and top.
Okay.
So the top is always the top. You need it to be the strongest. You need it to look the nicest. But base, just get. You're doing lifts of base, you're doing, 6-inch lifts up to like, 2 feet of base before you even get to a 3-inch top layer.
Yeah.
So, and that base just needs to be heavy, and it's going to have a lot more bigger aggregate in it. Yep. So you can not get away in a bad way, but that's where you pump all your millings in there.
Sure.
But in the process of making asphalt, that's where you end up when you have like a 3/4 chip or a 3/8 chip and it's surrounded with asphalt of hardened liquid AC on it, and you put it in the drum and you heat that drum up, it pops. So it's really, a little bit of the engineering, but from my perspective, it's the it's the manufacturer of the asphalt plants that don't want to deal with adding in the millings to it because of what it does to the drum and what it does to the making the new asphalt process.
Okay.
But, at the end of the day, when you have millings, that's liquid AC, that's AC, that's oil, that is pure hydrocarbons just right there, right? Right in a mountain of it.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
That would be, I'm surprised someone hasn't, maybe they have, and I haven't met them yet, where they can remove that hardened AC on that rock and regenerate it.
It'll be coming.
Like there's got to be a way of something of
reheat it, do something to clean it,
add something to it, let it dissolve or something. I mean, I'm not a scientist.
Yeah,
I'll sell it though.
The CDE will come up with it someday.
We like our washing.
Yeah,
we've we found our niche. We were born in a niche. We're at the present. We don't do any dry screening. We don't do any crushing. If a client comes to us and wants to incorporate, we will gladly be able to put that in our scope, but we're not manufacturing it. We're gonna subcontract it out to somebody. We're really good at the washing piece, and we take pride in it.
Yeah,
it's been, I've been with them for going on my 4th year. It's been really cool to see the ebbs and flows. Yeah, when I first joined, recycling was great. We're still leaning on the recycling, but frac sand was booming, and everybody wanted to get a frac sand plant. And I was just learning about frac sand and how wild that spec is, and how everybody wanted to get their sand from Wisconsin because of how hard it was.
Sure.
The sand equivalency, I guess, is through the roof in Wisconsin.
We have a lot of natural gas industry. We're just going north of here 10 miles is where it kind of opens up in Northeast PA. Okay. And it's busy, and there's a lot of sand coming in. And I don't know anything about it, but I do know that the frac sand is it's a hot commodity, and it comes in long distances, and it's not something you can just get here locally. No. I don't know the spec on it.
It's a specific cut. It's got to be round. It's got to be a certain shape. So you can't regenerate it from a demo site by no means. Okay. The minimal deposits, and not only does it have to be round, but it has to be hard. So the sand equivalency is how crushable it is. As fracking has grown, the spec of the material hasn't grown either. It's actually gotten diluted in the sense, we can use that sand. We can use that sand. But there are still certain parameters that just the actual frac process of pumping that back down to the hole and filling it, they have to meet certain criterias. Yeah. And we have a number. I mean, I don't even know the exact number of how many frac plants we have in Texas and Louisiana and Oklahoma and that big sand belt area. And it all facilitates all the fracking in upstate New York and here. I mean, there's no round sand in upstate in New York. Well, there's a little bit, but not a lot.
I don't think they're fracking up there.
No, they might not be. I'm just saying Pennsylvania. I'm just saying in this area, there's no round sand.
No,
no. There's round rock. There's upstate New York. There's a lot of great, beautiful river rock.
A lot of river rock,
but no sand.
Sand is tough to get. It really is.
So you got to truck it up here, rail it up here, and
a lot of it comes in on train cars.
I mean, that's another. We talk about trucking logistics. Rail logistics is another head scratcher.
It's a whole nother animal, but more cost effective when you're doing big volume for sure.
Yes.
But big volume. If you need to move, 50,000 tons of sand from Wisconsin to Pennsylvania, rail is going to be the way to do it if the infrastructure is in place.
Yeah, and they make it work because natural gas is that need for that's not going anywhere.
No.
And presently stated, the best way, the most economical way is fracking. So figure it out. Yeah. Right?
They'll make it work. So I've heard of Pasilico, P Park. Mm-hmm. It's called. That's their place there, right?
That's in Patterson. That's the facility in Patterson I was referencing is P Park.
Okay, so that's Pasilico's facility there. So that's your plant there. Mm-hmm. It's working for them, obviously, right? Like they've made a successful business model out of it. They're not going sideways on this. They're not just figuring this out. Like this is a good business model for them.
No, and the P Park model is actually not completely different, but different from their original model of contaminated soil. So it's non-contaminated soil. It's just excavation waste coming in. And what that originally was, that was a Tilcon site, Tilcon quarry, depleted the reserves. Silico comes in and starts filling in the hole. And it was I don't know how many decades of a plan, but fill the hole in and then build a residential area.
Okay.
They put a plant in, and now they extend the life of that hole because material is gonna come in. They're gonna wash what they see as a good yield, for sand and aggregates, and they'll spit that back out into the market.
So now that can kind of go up and down. I mean, if that's how they choose to do it, but you have a heavy inbound year, you could fill a little bit, and then you have a heavy export year, you can kind of take it back down. I mean, maybe.
Yep. 100. You just extended the life of that hole.
Big time.
Maybe that's not the goal of the local area, but ultimately for the state of New Jersey, having a safe area to dump excavation waste is limited, especially in that area in North Jersey. So yeah, no, they took the risk, they put it there. They've been very successful. They had to truly build that market all by themselves because there was nobody else in the state of New Jersey doing that. And it's tricky because it's not contaminated. That's not, now they're competing. They're competing with the likes of the guy in Pennsylvania that just will take it for free.
Yep.
Now on the business case wise, they're selling their sand for market rate, and they don't have to extract it. Our operating cost is way less than having to get a dredge and a permit for a pond and make the sand and then truck the sand. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there in North Jersey. So they do a great job. I'm really proud of those guys. They bought it, they built it, they've added on to it because it was their version of a pilot plant, like a pilot business. And then once they developed that, then they came back and we added on to them. So now they're fully scrubbing their aggregate. They have bigger capacity for sand, and that's good for us, good for them.
Sure.
No, it's been great. They're the first ones in the state of in the U.S. that have bought multiple recycling plants. Now, if you go across the pond in the UK, we have operations that have 10 plants.
No kidding.
This is why now that's a mature market. We're still a baby market.
We're in the infancy here.
Yeah,
we're just getting started on this.
We're just getting started.
Yeah,
but in the UK, to support the London market alone, we have north of 20 plants.
Just in London.
That's not a very
London. Big area.
That's the London. I think population wise is in between Philly and Boston. Okay. In terms of less than 10 million, it's called 7 or 8 million.
To have 20 plants right there, that just tells you the demand.
I mean, there's 50 million tons, way bigger. I'm giving you a conservative number, but say 50 million tons a year that circle New York City.
Okay.
And that's new material, excavated material, everything. But just there's 50 million tons of sand and aggregate that circulate,
getting hauled around in and out.
Yeah. Of New York City alone.
Yeah.
And that's 20 million people. So now New York City doesn't have the same logistics that London has. We have water issues, we have other states, and we have things that we have bridges and tunnels that have to have to figure that out. But ultimately the demand is there. 100% the demand's there. Yeah. Philadelphia too.
Interesting.
Washington DC. There's some areas that are getting more and more congested. Like, what do you think? If you want to do construction in DC, do you want to send all your stuff to Alexandria, in Virginia, or do you want to be able to have a turnaround of some sand and aggregate, a dumping facility, and sand and aggregate, right within your corridor?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, geographically, every area is going to be just a little bit different how their markets will handle this and when it'll come. A long time ago, about 10 years ago, I bought a mobile crusher, and I had a Williams Mobile Crushing and Recycling. I was the first guy in the area and trying to be the first innovative guy recycling concrete and asphalt in the area.
Good for you.
Didn't work. It didn't work. The machine, I bought a small machine, a small Rubble Master machine.
Oh, impact crusher.
A little impact crusher. And I was trying to be like, sneaky to get in and out of commercial sites in quick couple days, not have this, big massive, spread coming in and out.
Right.
But what I found very quickly, and it'll happen someday, was we're just like Northeast PA, my area, just not there yet. We have too many places to dump. And we don't have, regulations saying that you can't dump or you must recycle. Mm-hmm. So when I would give somebody a quote, let's say, $15,000 to come down for 2 days and crush it up quick and get out of there. Well, they can throw it in the back of the trucks and take it to their buddy's farm 10 miles away for a case of beer. It just wasn't working. And we did some little rock, and then, it got me, eventually that led to some other things. So it wasn't like a loss, but I sold it to a guy in Manhattan, and
oh wow,
it's amazing to me the difference of 100 miles, the way the markets change and work. Someday, recycling of asphalt and concrete in Northeast Pennsylvania in the Scranton area will probably be pretty normal. That'll be the way you do it. But right now, we're just not there. But you go 50 miles away, it's a whole different story.
Just go east, even in Phillipsburg. You did the first town and off of 78 right there. Even that, I could see. Even that they probably just jump ship and go right to Pennsylvania. To be honest,
probably.
But I respect you on that. I have an S-Tech C12 Plus.
Okay.
Big jaw, 52-inch jaw crusher. Uncle and I bought it decades ago now. And we mobile crushing. I know the game real well. Crush by ton, crush by the day.
Yep.
You tell me.
We tried it, and ultimately it actually that is why that led me to this building that we're sitting in here. It's a kind
cool.
of a company called me to crush their waste bluestone. They were getting out of the bluestone business. They wanted their old inventory crushed because they were going to lease their parking area to the gas companies. And I went up to look at it, and I said, well, you want all this stone crushed? And they're like, yeah. And I'm looking at it going like, man, it's big bucks in stone here. Why are you going to do it? So I ended up making a deal with them. I did crush the waste, but I reduced my price down to like nothing. And I took 300 pallets of bluestone that they were going to crush, and I hauled it down to this place here in Dalton. This is how this landscape supply yard started here. So without that crusher, which I call that business failed because I lost a lot of money, but it led me to, it led me to getting that call from them. I did that crushing for them, took the stone, hauled the stone down here, started a landscape supply yard, and it blew up into what it was before I sold it. So it's kind of funny how those things work out. And it just
you should thank Rubble Master.
I should.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
It is pretty interesting. It is.
Oh man, that Rubble Master probably ate up that bluestone.
And how it did okay. The machine was too small. Honestly, what I should have done. I was young, naive, and I take chances. Some pay off, some don't. That did in the long run in a different way, but in the short term, it didn't, and I had to sell the machine and get out from under it. But had I bought a big jaw to just go up into bluestone country, because this was at the same time natural gas was really hot. So I'm trying to advertise to guys, that are doing demos, say, hey, I'll come down and crush your brick. And they're like, yeah, give me a price. And I tell them like, nah, we're just going to dump it over the bank. We don't need to do that. Asphalt and concrete and stuff. But at the same time, natural gas was hot and heavy, and there was a lot of mobile crushing going on because we're in bluestone country up here. So there's hundreds of bluestone quarries between, upstate or northern Pennsylvania and then southern New York with just mountains and mountains of waste stone. So, guys like Bill Ruick from A Shop in Stone and some other guys, they just start going into these old quarries, and they were crushing the waste stone and making the rock for the gas pads, for the roads, for the construction entrances. So had I bought a big jaw, I would have been busy as shit up there doing that.
Because they need the 3/4 clean, but they don't. There's a big pile right there. They just need someone to crush it.
And you go up to some of these bluestone quarries, these quarries are 15, 20, 30 years old, and they've been dumping in the same pile all that time, all the waste product, and then they would just go in with a big jaw and make a couple, 50,000 ton of 4-inch minus and sell it to the gas companies for roads and stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
they cleaned up a lot of quarries like that. Even Bill now, they've got a bunch of quarries, and he crushes at a few of them, and there's there's no waste.
And it's all the tailings from before. The waste rock now.
Well, they cleaned up a lot of, I'm sure a lot of the quarries cleaned up a lot of the old stuff as well. But even now, during the new extraction process, when they're taking out the flagstone and they're taking out the saw rock, instead of making a mountain of waste product, they just take it right to the crusher, crush it, screen it. It goes out in a Triaxle for sale, and they've eliminated their waste in a lot of cases.
These quarries, what are they primarily selling? Just bluestone, like the big slabs?
Bluestone.
Yeah.
Bluestone products, which are sold all across the country, all across the world, and also making, gravel products out of them.
Okay.
Some of the quarries in this area, they will take out bluestone products and crush the waste and sell aggregate, or they just take out bluestone, or you have some, like Hilltop or H&K, they have a quarry over here, and they just crush. They just take it out. But literally, bluestone is worth a couple $100 a ton by just taking it out of the ground and cutting it in a square, potentially. But to sell $14 a ton 2B, you've got to crush it, screen it, move it, stack it,
somebody else can do that.
Well, yeah, so either somebody else does it or they do it both. But yeah, so had we just bought a big jaw at the time, we would have been quite busy. And I actually ended up, we got some jobs out of it. I ended up renting bigger equipment and doing some of those types of projects. But it was a learning experience for me. But I had that vision, though. I guess I got off track of my story, but I had that vision, crushing and, recycling, mobile recycling and recycling of these products. You do a demo job, you take down a building, you take up the sidewalks, and then you need 2 foot of fill to come back in for the new development. Well, why haul all that stuff out, dump it over a bank, because you can't work with it, it's too big and chunky, and haul the rest in. So the business model was crush it on site and stay on site and reuse it. And I know, but I see guys over in Jersey, New York, they do phenomenal with it. It's a great model there. It just doesn't work here yet because we can buy gravel cheaper and dump sites cheaper than you can do the whole turnkey operation on site for, depending on the project. It does happen sometimes.
Yeah, right. Big warehouse,
bigger
big pad
stuff. Yeah.
It's also who's the owner, who's the actual, who's doing the construction, because some guys favor recycle. Some multinational, they're across the country. They have certain obligations to hit certain emission controls and stuff. And when they can say, hey, we built this, big 1,000,000 square foot warehouse and 100% is the recycled aggregate and sand. Now that's a check their box for their stock price and stuff. So there's always those parameters too.
Absolutely.
You see that all the time. You can, what the local guy is doing versus what the bigger corporations do. There's always some kind of middle piece. What's the real motivation behind that? Are they really trying to use recycled aggregate because it's good, or because they have to check that box?
I think a lot of times they're doing it because it looks good, not because it's good, because it looks good.
That's part of my motivation with CDE, because it feels good.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it, but I could talk about it all the time because it truly feels good. It feels good just doing my little part. It's construction. I love the smell of diesel fuel. I'll dig all day long. My favorite piece of equipment, her name is Buttercup. It's a 1969 D8. It's the first model from Caterpillar from cable. It was a hydraulic blade versus cable blades.
Yeah.
It's got like an 18 or 19 foot U blade and just pushes.
That thing will just push.
But the actual starter for it is over 100 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, it's a straight line 8. The head of the cylinder is like this big. That girl pushes.
That's a big girl. And your family has one of those?
Yeah, so it sits in, we own, right now our only land that we use to mine is one's in Millstone, New Jersey, the other one's in Folsom.
Okay.
And she sits in Folsom and pushes topsoil.
Still running.
Yeah, starts up right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Awesome.
I think it's actually, my uncle's going to grab it soon. I was going to go to a demo site in North Brunswick and just push concrete.
Yeah.
It's they don't make them like they used to.
No, that machine runs better than a 2020 D8 probably.
Yeah, there's definitely no Tier 4 final on that thing. There's no def.
It doesn't have to stop and regen or anything. Nonsense.
No, she doesn't like to start in the cold. That's the only thing. Other than that, she fires right up.
Nice.
I used to say it on the time. One of the bigger sites that I was with my uncle on, there was a little bit of a contentious internal, family battle because, there's multiple segments of our family, and my uncle and we got the large chunk of the civil work, but the other side, another part of the family, they thought they could do the civil work better than us, and blah 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 blah. And we're like, okay, whatever. So we bought, buttercups there, pushing. It was just he had to cut a bunch of fill, and there was also these pockets of big concrete. I mean, at one point we were 60 feet in the ground, and it was just because the guy just dumped concrete there. So we had a whole host of things we were dealing with. The other side of the family, that thing doesn't move material. You got to get new. You got to go new. And so they rented a brand new D8. Same day, we decided we just went different directions, pushed the same amount of dirt.
Same amount?
Same amount of dirt.
I was hoping you were going to say blew them out of the water.
No, not. But you got to remember, in those days, you're taught to run a bulldozer in first gear.
Yeah.
You're not flying in fifth gear backwards and moving around everywhere. You push, you bull gear, you push. You got a big old U blade. You push material, nice and consistent, and she'll work all day long.
Yeah.
Not to mention the operator gets tired because you got your feet, you got your hands, you're bouncing around. The newer machines, there's GPS. You push go, and it pushes for you. You don't have to do anything.
Sooner than later, I mean, they're already out there. They're getting run by remote, but I mean, sooner than later, you're gonna hit start in the morning and just watch it from a laptop all day, and it's just gonna run around on its own and do what it's got to do.
There are sites like that so far. There are some things. I don't think fine grading, or just a safety factor. You're gonna have to have a guy in the seat, but the autonomy control of some of these, some of this stuff is remarkable and useful. There's going to be some areas in the world where things are not safe, military or stuff like that. Why do you have to put a person in a firing range to go run a bulldozer to set up a trench for some type of infrastructure? For just have them sit safely in Washington D.C. and run the bulldozer.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
It now, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, they're running drones and they're flying things in the air.
Yeah.
Go run some excavators and dig.
I'm sure they are.
I hope they are.
Yeah.
Those are things we'll never see in the news.
No.
No,
for sure.
I mean that's CDE in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. That's an interesting business. I want to maybe Pasilico, the closest place from here.
Yeah, P Park. Yeah,
P-Park?
You just run right. Really, just jump on 80 and go east until you get to, I don't know what exit number it is, but Patterson.
Yeah,
and they're right up there. No.
I'd love to check it out someday. When I get over there.
Rob Tassi, Joe Pasilico, Thomas Pasilico. I get to work. Those are the experts. The washing. They call it Pasilico Wash Plant. They're the material division, and they're great guys. I get to work with them every day. They challenge us. They really truly they make us better. If they don't, they have a certain standard that we gotta really try to achieve. And it keeps me on my toes, and I really appreciate that. It's because at the end of the day, they were the first ones. I think it was 8 years ago now. 8 years ago, they were dealing with. They bought a heavily contaminated piece of property in Long Island, and we're just trying to find a solution for how do we get rid of. We have to remove the contaminants, but we have to bring in new earth. They were going to raise. It was either a refinery or something, but they had to raise the grade because it was on the shoreline. And they were just pondering things, and they saw us. What was that? 2014? Yeah, 2014 or 2017. One of those Con Expos. They were trying to figure out what's the best way to mitigate all these contaminants, and they saw our booth. And next thing you know, they bought a facility from us, but they took that risk. Like that's not that easy.
No, I mean, we're not talking about like buying a skid steer here. Like I imagine we're talking a few $1 million to get set up here, with a small plant to get started. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Oh, And we're just the manufacturer of the plant.
Yeah.
There's a long list of stuff that they have to achieve on the civil side to get the area ready for a wash plant.
Sure. And do you sell the plant direct, or do you have dealers? Or you guys manufacture and sell?
We manufacture and we sell.
Okay.
We also have a great question. A year ago, it would have been direct to consumer.
Okay.
Going forward, we've engaged and we've had a lot of success with not true dealerships. We're not asking these guys to be stocking dealers and you're going to show up to Stone Equipment and that's where you're going to buy CDE because they're the only dealer. We're calling them preferred partners because there is a tremendous amount of we're looking for the relationships. When you bought your Rebel Master, you bought it from a dealer, I think, and you had a relationship with that dealer, or you knew someone who had a relationship with that dealer. We don't have a relationship with everybody, but these dealers have relationships, long-standing relationships. Now, I come from the dealership world, so I know the appreciation that a dealer brings. The dealer brings the security and the service and stuff. If you're going to buy a Volvo excavator, you're going to want to buy that from someone that knows about it, get trustworthy. Is it going to run? Am I going to have the parts and service behind that? It's really tough for us to grow without a presence of a dealer, just for parts and for service and for relationships.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we have right now Goodfellas on the West Coast. We have RMS up in the Minnesota area, Montana area.
Okay.
We have more coming down the line that I don't think we've actually named yet, but yeah, no, we really value those relationships. They've done great things. Preferred partners. Now they will be bringing in stock equipment, but that's not at the end of the day, if you want to be a preferred partner, not stock.
Yeah. I mean, you can't buy like a massive, cleaning operation and stock it and sit on it and hope somebody, has the vision to set up an operation. Right.
I mean, the world that I live in on the recycling aspect, we're not asking any of these preferred partners to go out there and sell recycling systems. The engineering that's required, the permitting required, the sales cycle that's all there, that's not. But you own a sand mine. You have and you've been, it's generational, fourth generation. The cut, everything. There's certain parameters that are never going to change. And you have a sand screw and you've been using it. Well, we have a better solution, newer technology. The sand screwers are great, but really put an Evo wash there, and an Evo wash when we have it's like you buy a Ford F-150. There's a stock Ford F-150, but then there's the upgraded versions. So we just bring in the stock one, and when you want to upgrade it, we can add something. We can add the extra cyclone on it, or add a dual pass, or another sump to it, or something. But that's easy. We can do that in house. The partner can do that.
Right.
And now you have an Evo wash. So they're going to be stocking specific equipment for the natural world, but in a recycling application, that's a big,
kind of like custom built.
That's a big ask.
Yeah. Yeah. If I said to you today, Joe, hey, I have a site here. I think there's a demand for it. We sign a contract. What am I talking to be up and running? A year?
A year is a good number.
Yeah.
Because that's us manufacturing. It's doing the engineering, doing design, manufacturing, and shipping it. But that's also you procuring the site, getting the permit, doing the civil work that's required. Mm-hmm. We really. Then our newer systems, we just ask for a flat pad, but then you also have to get the power and you have to get the water. There's other things that I'll help you, but that's not in our scope.
Sure. Yeah.
I will do almost anything to help guys out. But there's just some things I just can't do.
Sure. You got to do it with local resources and local contractors.
Yeah. And there are guys that run across the country that do full installs. But ultimately, honestly, some of my biggest headaches right now is power. Electric, getting the right transformers, getting the right, you get 480 volt, right? You got it right there. That's not easy to come by. And then, you have some outfits like, I'll just buy a generator. You need an air permit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just like a crusher.
Just like a crusher.
Yeah. Why do they do that? I never understood that. So you have a mobile crusher. Mm-hmm. Got a 300 horsepower cat. I'm just making it up. I don't know if
C12. Yeah.
But a dozer, an excavator, same engine, how come they?
You're asking.
Yeah,
You're asking.
And please don't do that. If anybody from these government agencies are listening, don't do that.
Is this your PSA? No.
Yeah. But I just thought that was odd. Like, yeah, you're going to bring a mobile crusher into a site. You know, we had to deal with that with DEP and air quality permits and all that stuff. But I never understood. But you could buy a dozer that's running in the same site, and you don't have to do it. Never made much sense to me.
So some of the air permit stuff that I'm familiar with, if you're subcontracted to come in from a demo site and you're not the GC of it, the air permit you don't need it necessarily. If you're self-generating, you don't need an air permit. You know, there's certain parameters, but you still have to track it. Hey, how many hours I did on this site, how many tons I did on this site. Right. But I know what you're saying. On the dozer, you're like.
I always thought that was kind of funny. Like, I had to go through the nonsense, at our local quarry up here to have the crushers permitted, but you have other machines there with very similar emissions output.
If not bigger.
Yeah. And they're just not crushers or screeners, so they did not have to be permitted.
And I was naive, but I always associated, this is way back when, I associated the air permit to the dust being generated from the crushing, which it's not.
It's the emissions.
It's the emissions.
Yep.
Because, the air permit for a generator too.
Sure.
But it's I don't know what, the bulldozer goes back and forth. So it's different. It's different air.
I don't know.
I had actually I'll mention their name, the Herman's Trucking in Wrightstown, New Jersey. Phenomenal, awesome family business. Been around for decades. Herman is still alive. Actually, his birthday is coming up. He's gonna be 91, and he collects tractors. So all across their yard are like tractors from all across the world, all different ages. I mean, just farm tractors.
Okay, yeah.
But and that's his thing. And I was able to sell them one of my first Aztec sales, selling an FT 5260, so a 52-inch draw. Fast track, so it's mobile. And the reason why they went mobile and not stationary was because of the air permit requirements. Was because if it had tracks, it was considered in New Jersey, it was considered a dozer, like you said.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to provide the same air permitting requirements as if it was a stationary unit. But they had to spend, a track draw versus a stationary draw. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Quite a bit more. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but it was worth it.
Yeah, that was Marilyn is now the she's not the sole owner, but she runs the whole show. And I was able, when I first got, this is 7 years ago, 7 years ago, they had 10 trucks, 8-9 trucks, and just her and working with her son who came up, veteran, came up, and he graduated with a finance degree and just went full on, was like, this is what we're doing. And pretty quickly, in like 3 years, they went to 30 plus trucks.
Nice.
And they have a landscape supply as well. They do mulch, they do recycling. But in Wrightstown, you wouldn't think of, like, that's like the location. I would never pick that location. But they do a great job. They make great relationships. They have McGuire Air Force, the Air Force Base is right there, or the Joint Venture Base, it's called now, or something, is right there. So they get all that that beautiful runway concrete right there. So their concrete, their recycled aggregate is beautiful, like really strong concrete.
Nice.
So, and they it's just been fun watching them. Like, even coming here today, I saw 3 Herman's trucks on Route 80, and they're from they're south of Six Flags, like that area in New Jersey. Like, they go everywhere.
They're getting out there. That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It was fun talking about dirty dirt, and I think you guys are on the ground floor of, what the future is for this. I think as time goes on, you're going to see a lot more. Like, we have no choice. We're going to be running out of room, so you're going to see a lot more of this going on. So I think you guys are probably in a great position to keep expanding here in the States, and I wish you the best of luck with it. Tell me and the listeners, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in putting in a wash plant or would like to know more about how this works?
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you for being on the Triaxle podcast. Best bet for me is to find me on LinkedIn, Joseph Teal on LinkedIn. CDEgroup.com is a good one. Honestly, I think LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to get a hold of anybody these days. That's just how I figure. And yeah, hey, we're turning dirt to dollars. That's what we're all about. If it's contaminated or not contaminated or whatever, but at the end of the day, we're in the dirt business. We move it, we make it, we reuse it. And this was really great. My first time doing a podcast. So
Awesome.
Nerves are gone now.
That's good. That's good. Well, you're a great guest, and we're glad to have you. And appreciate you coming on, man. And I'll definitely be catching up with you on the East Coast here, and we'll see you at some events.
I look forward to it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
All right.